Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we translate corporate speak into plain English. And today we're diving into a report from a company that is always on the move, literally Four Corners Property Trust. Incorporated is releasing some key updates, and we're here to tell you what it all means for investors and the everyday person. Before we jump in, if you want to stay ahead of the curve and understand the real story behind corporate filings, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And hey, we've got a fantastic community brewing on our Discord server where we break down these reports even further. So check out the link in the description. So what exactly is this filing all about? Today we're looking at a Form 8K, a report that companies use to announce major events that shareholders should know about. Think of it as a really important public announcement delivered directly from the company. It is not your typical quarterly or annual report with pages and pages of detailed financials, but it is where the company signals significant happenings. This specific report is about Four Corners Property Trust Incorporated's financial results for the quarter ending the 30th of September 2025. They're letting us know about their performance and giving us some extra information to chew on. The core of this announcement is about their operational results and financial standing. Essentially, they've released their earnings for the last 3 months. This is where we get to see if the company is making money, growing, or facing challenges. Mark your calendars for the 28th of October 2025. That is the day Four Corners Property Trust Incorporated chose to share their performance for the quarter that wrapped up on the 30th of September. Now, they haven't given us the detailed numbers right here in this document, but they've attached two very important pieces of information. First up is their official press release. This is usually the company's official statement on how they're doing. It is often filled with positive spin, but it is the first place to look for their key messages and highlights. They're trying to tell a story with this release, so we'll be looking for the narrative they're trying to create. And then there is the supplemental financial and operating information. Now, this is often where the real juicy details are hidden. Press releases can be a bit vague, but this supplemental information usually provides more granular data that helps us understand the numbers behind the headlines. It is the more technical but crucial part of understanding their financial health. We're not going to see tables of numbers here within the 8K itself because they're provided as separate exhibits, but the filing tells us they are available. This is what we usually dive deep into to understand the actual business. Now, this next part is about how they communicate with everyone. Regulation FD, also known as fair disclosure, is a rule that requires companies to share important information with all investors at the same time. This section basically says that members of Four Corners Property Trust Incorporated's management team will be talking about the company in upcoming investor presentations. So expect to see company leaders out there explaining things and answering questions. This is their chance to elaborate on the results we just talked about and offer insights into their future plans. It is also an opportunity for them to manage expectations and perhaps create some excitement. And because they're being transparent, they've even attached the presentation they'll be using. This investor presentation is another key document where they'll likely distill their financial results and strategic outlook into a more digestible format. It is usually packed with charts and graphs and a narrative designed to convince investors of the company's value and potential. We'll be looking for how they frame their performance and what they emphasize as their strengths and future opportunities. Now, all these exhibits, the press release, the supplemental information, and the investor presentation are considered furnished, not filed. This is a subtle but important legal distinction. It means they're providing this information to the public, but they aren't taking on the same level of legal responsibility for it as they would for a formally filed part of the report. It is a common practice for these types of announcements, but it is good to know the nuance. So what does this all mean? Four Corners Property Trust Incorporated is a real estate investment trust that owns and manages a portfolio of properties. They primarily focus on single-tenant retail properties. Think of places like large chain restaurants and other businesses that lease a whole building. Their performance is really tied to the health of these businesses and the overall retail sector. In recent times, the retail sector has seen a lot of changes with the rise of e-commerce, so companies like Four Corners are constantly adapting. While this specific 8K filing doesn't contain the detailed financial tables we often analyze in a 10Q or 10, it points us to where those details can be found. The press release and supplemental information are where we look for key numbers like rental income occupancy rates and any changes in their property portfolio through acquisitions or dispositions. For instance, if their occupancy rate, which is the percentage of their properties that are rented out, drops, it could signal trouble for the tenants or a less attractive market. Conversely, an increasing occupancy rate and rising rental income would suggest strong demand for their properties. We'd also be looking for any mention of tenant defaults or lease restructurings. If a major tenant were to face financial difficulties and be unable to pay rent that would directly impact Four Corners' revenue and profitability, their strategy often involves long-term leases, which can provide stability, but also means they are exposed to the financial health of those specific long-term tenants. In terms of external context, we've seen a push and pull in the real estate investment trust market. Some sectors like industrial and data centers have boomed, while others like traditional retail have faced headwinds. Four Corners' focus on quick service restaurants and similar businesses has somewhat insulated them compared to malls, but they are not immune to broader economic trends affecting consumer spending. Looking at the exhibits mentioned specifically, the press release and supplemental information are crucial. The press release will likely highlight any increases in funds from operations, a key metric for REITs that measures their operating performance. The supplemental information, on the other hand, would show us the breakdown of their property types, tenants, and geographic locations, giving us a clearer picture of their diversification and risk exposure. If, for example, a large portion of their revenue comes from a single tenant or a single geographic area, that represents a concentration risk, which is something investors always watch closely. Now, let's shift to their investor presentation. This exhibit is where they'll try to paint a picture of a robust and growing company. They'll likely emphasize their long-term leases, their strong tenant relationships, and their disciplined approach to real estate acquisition. We'll be looking for any new strategic initiatives they are pursuing, perhaps moving into different types of properties or seeking new types of tenants. My take on this filing is that it is a standard announcement of financial results and upcoming communications. The real substance will be in the accompanying press release and supplemental financial information, which are not directly embedded here, but referenced. Four Corners Property Trust Incorporated operates in a dynamic sector. Their success hinges on the continued stability and growth of their key tenants, and their ability to manage their real estate portfolio effectively in the face of evolving market conditions. Without seeing the actual numbers from the exhibits, it is hard to give a definitive opinion on their direction. But this filing sets the stage for that analysis. The key risks for Four Corners would be tenant financial distress, broader economic downturns impacting consumer spending, and interest rate hikes, which can affect the cost of capital for real estate companies. Their opportunities lie in their ability to acquire new, well-located properties and to attract and retain strong, creditworthy tenants. Alright, that is our breakdown of this Four Corners Property Trust Incorporated filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching, see you next time.